want to make an amendment to section 52(2), and my amendment goes as follows. Voting at an election and transmission of results under this bill shall be.
Please.
Like that be done and electronic tracking. Voting, I can't do that.
Voting at an election and transmission of results under this bill shall be done electronically.
Voting is like animation.
Please, order.
I think
My amendment is that to the effect that transmission of results under this bill, under the election, shall be by electronic transmission. I so move.
well, please. Let's have good conduct. Colleagues, please, let's be guided. Please, I want to beg. It is part of my responsibility here to guide so that we can arrive at a very good, reasonable position. And I want to believe that today in Nigeria, I don't know the coverage of the broadband. Have we been able to cover all parts of the federation that we now want to put it? I don't know.
Yes.
Thank you. But sorry, sir. I make bold to say, you can go and verify in my constituency we are not more than 20% coverage. I make bold to say that one. So except if you want to disenfranchise some of us, I make bold to say that one.
Chairman, Chairman.
Yes, con.
Mr. Chairman, honorable colleagues, I have the floor. Go ahead. Mr. Chairman, honorable colleagues, I am Kiruka Onyejocha, member representing Isubu Akomulochi Federal Constituency. I'm from Abia State. I rise to second that the election results to be transmitted electronically. I so second.
No.
What did he say? Thank you. Please. Those in favor of the amendment say aye. Against say nay. The ayes have it. Don't point at hand at me. Don't point at me. Don't point at me. Don't do that. Don't point at me. One by one.
I will turn my back. No. Point of order.
Mr. Chairman, point of order. Mr. Chairman. Sit down, let us divide now.
Police, please, can you have your seat?
Everybody sit down, sit down, sit down.
Honorable members, please, can you resume your seat? Honorable members, Honorable Zachary, Chairman Police, Honorable Linda, have your seat. Go sit down. Honorable members, have your seat.
The discipline of the chair is being challenged.
Honorable members, please have your seat. Honorable members, please, can you have your seats? Honorable colleagues, please, can you have your seat?
Chairman,
Honorable, can you have your seat? Honorable colleagues, please, can you have your seat? Resume your seats. Honorable Chike, Honorable Kingsley, have your seat. Honorable Mapo, please resume your seat. Honorable Azubov, resume your seat.
we are finished now.
Honorable Kazela, resume your seat. Honorable Kazela, resume your seat. Honorable Kazela, resume your seat.
Point of order, Chairman.
Amendment paper.
Now you don't want he doesn't want to divide.
Amendment paper.
Honorable colleagues, please, can you have your seat?
Amendment paper.
Honorable colleagues, please, can you have your seat? Nobody second the amendment. Honorable colleagues, please, can you receive your seat?
Mr. Chairman, point of order. Point of order. Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Point of order. Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, point of order. I'm telling you.
Mr. Chairman, point of order. Bogus, you are distracting the chairman. Point of order.
Before your point of order, please. Before your point of order.
Can you have your seats at the back, please?
I I think as legislators we have every right to canvass positions, to lobby ourselves on issues, and do our voting, and conduct ourselves in the manner our other family rules have prescribed under the Constitution. I take exception to those who come here to insult me and abuse me. It happened. I take exception to that. It happened. It happened. I take exception to that. I take exception to that. Yes, he came here to abuse me. He was abusing me.
Are we still coming back? Is it live? It's live. It's a joint session. Can I go?
There's no audio.
In the month of July, on the 6th, it's 54 years.
Can you have your seat?
Section 53, Chairman. Amendment paper.
Honorable colleagues, please, can you have your seat? Nobody second the amendment.
The second amendment, and they voted. They went into voting. 52 to. Bring amendment. Bring amendment. Oh, no. Where are we?
Honorable colleagues, please, can you receive your seat?
Point of order.
Where are we? Electronic.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Point of order.
Point of order.
Point of order.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
Point of order.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Let's see the account.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Sada.
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
I'm telling them.
Mr. Chairman, point of order. Bogus, you are distracting the chairman. Point of order.
Before your point of order, please. Before your point of order.
Can you have your seats at the back, please?
I think as legislators we have every right to canvass positions, to lobby ourselves on issues and do our voting and conduct ourselves in the manner our other federal rules have prescribed under the Constitution. I take exception to those who came here to insult me and abuse me. It happened. I take exception to that. It happened. It happened. I take exception to that. I take exception to that. Yes. He came here to abuse me. He was abusing me. Wait a minute.
was a ruling. And it has to be reflected. If there was a ruling, and that's why we stopped. Can we please take our seats?
Mas, please resume your seat.
Well, it's part of the burden of leadership, but I still want to beg of us that as parliamentarians, we should conduct ourselves in the manner our rules have set for ourselves, for us. And I think it is not going to do anybody good by insulting or using foul language against ourselves. I want to beg for that understanding. 2, I'm the chair by the grace of God, but with their support. And what I'm expected to do is to give judgment. Colleagues, like I was saying, that language conduct is very important on how it's not going to be the end of the day today. We had a very thorough one today in the morning. We were able to resolve it through good conscience and discussions. And I think beyond that, I make bold to say when I wasn't a selfish person by my ruling. Anybody can go and review the audio of what happened and transpired. And I thought we are not making rules for ourselves here in this room only, but for the entire country. And I make bold to ask, those who are insisting that you must transmit, assuming, through electronic, I'm for electronic voting, and we should all be for it because we want transparency. What happens to our brothers in Maiduguri, in Yobe, where completely the masks are down? What happened to them? Are we being sensitive to the country? Mr. Speaker, sir. Maybe. Mr. Speaker.
Honorable, please listen in silence.
Well,
we don't want to hear your voices. Please raise your hand if you want to talk.
From Yobe, they enroll for WAEC electronically. In Yobe today, in Maiduguri, they enroll for WAEC.
Honorable, please. Honorable Chief. Honorable colleagues, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gudaji, okay. Take a seat. Falaki.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, honorable colleagues. I remain James Abiodun Faleke, I represent Ikeja.
Mr. Chairman, I move under clause 52(2), wish to amend as follows. Voting at an election. Let me move my amendment straight ahead. Transmission of results under this bill shall be both in electronic and manual with the procedure that
Point of order. Point of order. Point of order. Point of order. Mr. Chairman, point of order. Point of order.
Yes, sir.
Point of order, sir. On
Point
him.
of order.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, my dear colleagues. My name is Kingsley Chinda. Mr. Chairman, I rise to raise a point of order under Order 9. Order 9, Rule 6. Yes, sir, point of order on that motion. Mr. Chairman, can I proceed?
A point of order in relation to his own motion that he has brought.
Yes, sir, on the motion he has raised.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. My point of order is under Order 9, Rule 6, which says that it shall be out of order to attempt to reconsider any specific question upon which the House has come to a conclusion during the current session. Mr. Chairman, you have ruled on this issue. We cannot revisit it except in accordance with the rules. So the only thing we can do, which we have been attempting to do, and I think Honorable Toby has raised, is to ask for a proper division of the House. That's the only way forward. We can't revisit it.
Yes, sir.
Point of order.
He has ruled. He has ruled.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, honorable colleagues, like I said during my speech, the moment is upon us now. Mr. Chairman, many of our colleagues have said, and I think Honorable Chinda got it wrong as well, when he said, well, first of all, we have to explore all possibilities, because this is the main item. When he said that you had already ruled on this matter, let me pose it, or let me say clearly, that you have not ruled on this matter. The ruling, or the amendment by Honorable Toby was for electronic transmission, period. And you put the question. The amendment by Honorable Faleke is a different amendment. That question has not been put. The amendment by Honorable Faleke is for electric and manual. So that's a totally different question, which by our procedure, that question must be put, seconded and put. The reason why I want us to get it right, the reason, I am the speaker, so I'm going to remain neutral, but I'm going to try as much as possible to guide the House. The reason why I think we should get it right is because this is a moment in history, and we should do whatever in our conscience that we believe is in the best interest of Nigeria. Whether it is electronic, whether it is manual, whatever it is, we decide. But let it be based on what we feel is the best interest of the country, and let us not shout each other down Those who want manual cannot impose that on those who want electronic. Those who want electronic cannot impose that on those who want manual. What we need to do is vote, and let us accept the vote. If at the end of the day we are the quagmire, then we explore other means. If on this particular provision, if there is going to be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 amendments, then so shall it be. If at the end of the day, the result remains the same, we would have known that we have explored all possibilities, and this is what people want. That is democracy, and that is what we should do. So Honorable Falake's amendment is clearly different from Honorable Toby's amendment, because he is now trying, and I can see from what he is doing from the amendment, that he is trying to carry all sides along. He is trying to carry all sides along. Those who want manual and those who want electronic. So I think the second that should be put.
Chairman, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honorable members, please, I rise to put across my own understanding and my own opinion about our procedures as well. Mr. Speaker, my speaker, wherever you speak from, either from the floor or in the chair, you remain the leader of this house. I will continue to respect you in that capacity because you are our own choice. But on this note, on this particular observation you made, Mr. Speaker, I stand here to, under moral commitment, say, when a matter is raised here and a boy's vote is taken, the gavel is hit, it's a concluded matter. No! It's a concluded matter. No. And you can only reverse that.
Lawmakers there considering the electoral amendments bill for passage at the federal capital, and definitely lawmakers have been having a clause-by-clause consideration of the bill, and we will be leaving the sports program aside, and we appeal to our sport fans. We'll leave you with pictures of what is happening in the federal capital as far as the electoral amendment bill is concerned.
That is my position, Mr. Speaker, and so I so submit.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Chairman, point of order. Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Look. Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, I come Mr. Chairman, my name is Onofiog Luke, 18 and 3 Bomsurubium Federal Constituency of Akwa Ibom State. Mr. Chairman, this is a critical time in the history of our country. And I believe that this time calls for us to look at the interests of the country and look at the things that Nigerians had voted and given us their mandate to speak here. Mr. Chairman, sir, I come under Order 9, Rules of Debate, Rule 1 and Sub 6. And the basis on which I come, Mr. Chairman, is that as the chairman of this committee of the whole, you led debate, you canvassed for a position. in support of a position, then we should have opened the floor for others to canvass for their own position on why that is being done. Because you made a position as to why there should not be a particular issue and gave facts. And so I believe that members acting under Order 1, Sub Rule 6 should be given opportunity to debate. First, to debate and canvass position, just like the chairman canvass position in support of where he wants us to go. So I want to move, sir. I want to move, sir, that we come. Mr. Sir, I want to move a motion that we rely on Order 11. Having relied on 1 sub 6, we rely on Order 11. The combined reading of section 11 sub 1, Order 11 sub 2, and then sub 1 sub 2, Order 11 sub 2, sir, to call for voting on this issue.
Well, I don't know. First, I want to say that I take their own comments very well. It's not the first time that the person in chair or presiding tried to guide the house. So why are you treating me as an administration? And these are the things I keep on advising. That no point have we, while sitting in chair, not make attempts to guide in case there's dilemma. And I was just trying to bring another side as Nigerians who we truly believe that we must move as a nation. Of course, the position canvassed by the Honorable Falake, my ruling was on the amendment that was done. So we could take his own question, and I do not want us to be, please. Well, maybe let me make a ruling on what my brother Honorable Chinda brought. We are not attempting to put question on the same subject matter, and so if you read through what the rules says, it should be out of order to attempt to put a question on which matter has been considered. The consideration was for electronic voting and transmission. Now you have an amendment for electronic voting, transmission, and manual. So you are out of order. Thank you.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, it has become very imperative for me to stand up to address an issue.
Sergius, Honorable Sergius.
Honorable Sergius.
You are quite very welcome. Yes, sir. Thank you.
It has become very imperative for me to address a particular issue where Mr. Speaker spoke on the mode of our procedure. And of course, my brother, in my opinion, did not understand it. Because Toby, the Deputy Minority Leader, made an amendment. And you rule based on his amendment. Having ruled on that, any other person can bring up any other amendment, or you now put a question based on the substantive clause.
Said Falake is in order.
I'm trying to say that what Speaker said on the issue or the mode that we have taken is not out of context.
Sure.
It is not. He didn't. What he's saying is that even though he had ruled on Toby's amendment, another person can also bring up an amendment.
But I have ruled in that direction.
Exactly.
I have ruled in that direction. Yes, Seconder.
After this person, yes, yes.
Seconder, yes, sir.
Yes.
No.
We have not finished with
Hold on. What I'm saying.
No.
The reason why the house
No.
people were making up, but they were not satisfied.
Hold on.
The only way to get satisfaction is to vote on it.
Hold on.
By division of the house.
Yes, sir. Take that, sir. take your seat, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, I've recognized. No, it's not Falake. There's a motion on ground, so it's you are recognizing.
The issue.
Please, sir. Please take your seat, sir. Please. Please.
Second chair. Second chair.
Yes, sir. Falake, take your seat, please. Take your seat. You have a motion. I've called for a seconder and then Raji is holding.
It's all right.
Please.
Sorry.
No. Yes, sir.
Right, go ahead. No, I'm seconding. Let's move the motion and let's second the motion.
My amendment clause 52(2) is to the effect that transmission of resource under this bill shall be both manual and electronic. I didn't put voting. I said transmission of resource under this bill shall be both electronic and manual. That is my amendment.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. Yes, sir. Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, point of order. Mr. Chairman, point of order. Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Point of order. Right. Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Wale Raji.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
I represent a federal constituency of Lagos State. I rise to second the motion ably moved by Honorable James Faleke. I so second.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Those in favor of the amendment say aye. Against say nay. Nay! The nays have it. Yes, that is it. Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Clause 52.
Point of order.
Clause 52. Clause 52. Carry. 53. Carry. 54. Carry. Yeah.
Come do your point of order. Let's divide the house. If you don't do it, let's not do it again.
Why not they want to divide the house?
If you don't want to, let's not do it again. Point of order.
Let's bring you the latest from the National Assembly, where members of the House of Representatives from the South-South have opposed the Harmonized Petroleum Industry Bill allocation to host communities, which has been pegged at 3%. The lawmakers were heard chanting 5% as against the 3% at the floor of the House on Thursday. The chants continued even as the Speaker, Femi Gbadabiamila, walked in to commence plenary, shortly after the House went into an executive session. Our correspondent Joke Adisa joins us now for more on this development. Joke, run us through what played out at the House of Representatives.
You know that today is indeed a very busy day at the National Assembly. We have both chambers slated to consider and pass the much-awaited Electoral Act Amendment Bill today for Mr. President's assent. But just before the Speaker led the leadership in, we saw a member from Imo State, Honorable Igwe Chinyere, from River State. It was one that began the chanting of songs, insisting that it has to be 5% for host communities. And so all other members, and let me also say that the Minority Caucus of the House met yesterday on this same issue. And I want to be, although we were not privy to what was discussed, but from what is playing out, it does seem that that exactly was what the other meeting was about. And so they have resolved to ensure that they do not have less than 5%. At the committee stage, the PIB, the Ad hoc Committee on PIB in the House, agreed on 5%, and we saw the Senate agreed on 3%. So the Speaker constituted a 7-man committee to meet with the Senate to harmonize this, but eventually the Senate had its way, and even the House concurred to 3%, and that did not go well with members, particularly from those from oil-producing states. And so that is where we are now. We are hoping they have gone on an executive session. We are hoping that this will be resolved, and the main business of the day will be taken.
The House of Representatives was going for 5% and the Senate was going for 3%. So do we know at what point the House of Representatives changed its mind on the 5% to 3% and why they have now reverted to 3%?
Yes, the Speaker constituted a 7-man committee to meet with the Senate to harmonize this figure. The only dissenting area they had was that host communities fund. 5% the House agreed on, 3% the Senate agreed on. So what apparently at that stage, at that conference meeting, the House was able to buy into the Senate position, and that is what we have. Okay, so, and that is what we have now. The meeting is on. I have with me Honorable Francis Agbo from Benue State. He's a member of the opposition, the PDP. So he will also be talking to us more on this development. Nice to have you, sir. So give us a further insight into what is happening now.
As we speak, we are holding our executive session. Out of respect for you, I had to sneak out to talk to you. The position is very clear. The position of the House is very clear. The position of the Minority Caucus is very clear. We are unanimous, irrespective of political affiliation, that the host communities should be given 5%, because we don't want problem in the oil-producing states. We don't want problems across the country. The host communities, they are already agitating. They are saying that anything short of 5% is not acceptable to them, and we don't want to go back to Egypt. We don't want to go back to what was happening when oil pipelines, oil installations were blown up. The militants, the ex-militants, the agitators, all of them, that's what they are saying, that they're going to blow up everything. And we at the House of Reps, we are the people's parliamentarians, we believe very clearly that what we need, what the host communities need, is the 5%. And so we're appealing to our colleagues in the Senate to agree with us. As I said, we in the Reps, irrespective of party affiliation, we all agreed on 5% for the host communities, and I think that is not too much.
But will this stall again the passing of this bill yet again?
It will not. That's why we are appealing to them. We are appealing to the Senate. We are appealing to Mr. President that when the bill, the PIB finally gets to him, he should do a great service to the country, to Nigeria, by assenting his signature. Because this is not an individual matter, it's not a personal matter, it's not a political matter. The people of the Niger Delta, the people of the oil-producing states deserve this. And of course, tomorrow, I'm from Benue. Benue could be an oil-producing state. Bauchi could be an oil-producing state. Maiduguri could be. KB could be. Or any state in Nigeria could be. Once you become an oil-producing state, you tap into the 5%. So we are trying to do what will give us peace in this country. We don't want to go back to those days where oil installations were blown off. So I appeal to Mr. President, I appeal to all the stakeholders, I appeal to the Senate that they should key into what the House of Reps has done.
But there's also this argument that you don't stifle the oil-producing companies. That was the argument put forward by the chairman Haddock Committee on PIB, and that was why they had to agree on that.
No. It has to be a two-way thing. It takes two to tango. You're talking about IOC or whatever. What about the communities where people have died as a result of oil exploration, where people are suffering a lot of deprivations as a result of oil activity? Look, if you go to the Niger Delta today, if you go to Oloibiri, for example, it's just a metaphor of the neglect of the oil-producing communities. As I speak to you, you go to the terminals. It's an irony. The terminals where monies, billions upon trillions are generated from, they are inaccessible. You go to Boni is inaccessible. You go to Brass, it's inaccessible. You go to Fokado, it's inaccessible. What have we been doing in this country? How do you have communities, oil terminals, where monies are generated, billions of naira are generated, and have been holding this country as the mainstay of this country? How do you have such communities without being accessible to motorists? As I speak to you, nobody accesses those places. So the point I'm making, the oil producing states, the Niger Delta, whatever, they don't want to hear the argument. And you know that the oil has been the mainstay of this country over as far or as long as you can remember. Since independence till now, our major mainstay is oil. And then we don't want anything that will make these people to go back to what they were doing before. I don't want them to go back to the creeks again, because that will worsen our economic problem. We are already having a lot of problems in this country. We have banditry, insecurity here and there. We are practically in recession. So why do you do things that will make these people to see go back? They are threatening. And that's my fear. So it is better we consider, let's put the oil producing communities first before any other thing. We in the minority, that's exactly what we are saying. And then, there's also money approved for prospecting for oil. And then, the Niger Delta people, stakeholders, they are complaining that they don't want that 30%. But then, let's give them the 5%. And for me, it is not too much for them.
All right, let me ask, the main business of the day is the Electoral Act, the Constitution and passage. What should Nigerians be expecting?
Well, Nigerians should expect a big deal from us. We, at the House of Reps, we believe that electoral malfeasance is worse than corruption of Naira and Kobo. So, and electoral malfeasance has caused a lot of problems for this country. So, Nigerians should expect a very robust Electoral Act amendment. Nigerians should expect that we are going to have election result transmitted electronically. They should also look forward to having a very efficient and effective timeline and timetable. And the Nigerians should also expect us to do the right thing by making INEC more strong. We need INEC to be really independent, because the way INEC is today, we call it Independent National Electoral Commission, but indeed, in actuality, INEC is a dependent commission. It's not independent on its own. So the electoral bill that we're going to work on today, Nigerians should expect a big deal from us. Nigerians should also expect a more transparent, credible election in the 2003 election cycle, because that's what we are doing. We're so bothered that our electoral system has no credibility at all. And that's why we want to work on the Electoral Act. We want to ensure, like I said, election results are transmitted electronically. It is workable. The people who say many areas in Nigeria don't have internet, don't have connectivity, just forget it. INEC has said, if you don't have connectivity in the polling unit, post the result. Once you enter an area that has connectivity, the result will appear. It's just like WhatsApp.
What is the basis for increasing the campaign funds, the campaign fees?
Sir?
The basis for increasing the campaign fees for politicians?
Yeah, it is because of what is happening. You can see that the cost and prices of everything has actually skyrocketed. Logistics and what have you. That is the reason the political parties have to also do a lot of things, logistics, take care of so many things for themselves and all of that, the running of the party. And that is the reason why we must work holistically to ensure that the economy is fine-tuned, the inflation is actually reduced, because as it is, we're having a serious hyper inflation in the country. As inflation skyrockets, the cost of everything, both logistics and whatever, goes up, because the political parties must do something to protect the sanctity of their own candidature and then protect the sanctity of the party too. That's exactly what is happening. But most importantly, I am of the strong view that having a robust electoral act is not an end in itself. Because Nigeria, the problems we have in this country is not about the laws per se, it's about implementation. The political elites, the power elites, many of them, they are so arrogant, many of them are power drunk, many of them are very, very greedy and selfish. And therefore they look for ways of manipulating every law you have in this country. They manipulate the constitution, they manipulate the electoral act. So the point I'm making here is that I want to appeal to the power elites in this country that they should allow these laws to work. You go to Britain, Britain has an unwritten constitution, but it's a well-organized society. That tells you that the problem is not in its entirety about the law, the legal regime. It's about the human beings, the operators, the implementation. So as this electoral act comes, Nigerians should not expect a perfect electoral act. What Nigerians should do and what the power elites should do, they should allow the system to work itself and correct itself. That's exactly what we need.
Thank you so very much, Honorable Agbo. A good place to end it there. I've been speaking with one of the members of the House of Reps from Benue State, and he has given us further insight into activities here in the National Assembly. And so we are still waiting. The closed doors meeting is still on. We are hoping that any moment from now, the doors will be thrown open and we'll be able to proceed from here.
The Kaduna State Governor, Nasir El-Rufai, released the second quarter security report for his state. The statistics were alarming. According to the state governor, 222 deaths, 774 kidnappings, and 20 incidents of rape linked to banditry, communal clashes, and other violent attacks were recorded in Kaduna between April 1, 2021 and June 30, 2021. He blamed the state of insecurity on the lack of adequate security personnel in communities and called on the federal government to support the state and make up for the manpower deficit. According to the governor, there are simply not enough boots on the ground to have credible deployment in most areas to protect communities, deter crime, and enforce law and order. Although 87 bandits were neutralized under the period under review, El-Rufai called for an unconventional approach to the security situation, not just in Kaduna, but the 7 states that make up the Northwest geopolitical zone, as well as in neighboring Niger State. To discuss the worrying rise of violent crimes in his home state, we will now be joined from our Abuja studio by Senator Uba Sani, the federal lawmaker representing Kaduna Central, which has been the worst hit zone in the state. Good morning, Senator, and welcome to the morning show.
Good morning, Dr. Reuben Abati.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Well, quickly, Senator Sani, I recall that sometime last year, in November 2020, you were quoted as saying that, there was, the time had come for action. Later, you asked the people to support the government to check banditry in Kaduna State, and you even lamented that your zone, your senatorial zone, was the most affected. But where we are today, it looks like nothing has changed. It looks like, in fact, things have worsened. The situation is bad, particularly with the security report given by the governor. Now, the governor is saying that more security personnel will be needed to protect Kaduna State. Do you share that view? Or are there other problems that need to be addressed with regard to the sudden emergence of Kaduna State as the epicenter of banditry in the Northwest?
Thank you very much, Dr. Reuben Abati, and thank you for having me this morning. First and foremost, before I answer your question, which is a straightforward question, I would like to at least set the record straight as regard to the last week commentary you aired here on your own station. In that very commentary, I think you made some false allegation against me, where you concluded that I did not visit my people that were in this very serious crisis of series of kidnappings and abduction by the terrorists. In my constituency specifically, you mentioned Bethel Baptist Church. And of course, I want to say it clearly here that the report was completely wrong. Of course, myself and the security agencies have been in contact. We've been talking virtually on a daily basis, and I've been in touch with the families of those persons that were abducted. But the issue of kidnappings is a very serious security issue. We don't need to publicize what we're doing. We don't need to grandstand, because you don't need to grandstand on the issue of insecurity. And of course, as we're talking, I can assure you that the families of those persons that were abducted are really very happy with what we are doing together with them. And some of them are even working closely with me. I have personal relationship with some of the parents. But of course, last week, I think you concluded in your own commentary that I did not even make a comment as regard to the abduction of the children of those people that were right now in this very serious crisis with the terrorists. Of course, I was not happy because I have followed your career in the last almost 2 decades, and I've always respected your own views, particularly your own column in Guardian newspaper. I've always respected your views, like I said, but what you did last week for me, to say the least, was very, very unprofessional. That is one. But now going to the question you just asked me, let me quickly answer the question. Yes, some of us don't like talking too much. We believe in action. And I can tell you the Kaduna State Governor, Malam Nasir Ahmed El-Rufai, is doing everything humanly possible to solve the problem of insecurity in Kaduna State. Many people may not understand what we are doing in Kaduna State. And of course, when he called on the more security personnel to come to Kaduna and assist us, it's simply because our governor has been the leading person in this country calling for the creation of state police. Of course, because of that, personally, I have about 4 bills in the Senate at the moment fighting for the creation of state police. Myself and my colleague, the Sungu Senator Ike Ikoromadu, 2 of us have been the leading senators in Nigeria calling for the creation of state police. My bills have already passed first reading, and I have no doubt in my mind we cannot solve the problem of insecurity in this country if we do not support the call for the creation of state police in this country. It's very critical, it's very vital. We cannot run away from the facts. And I know some people are afraid of that. Some of us believe in restructuring. That's why we believe that there must be that support by everybody in this country to at least support some of us that believe in the creation of state police, because what we're having today, I don't think we have enough security personnel to resolve or to solve this problem of insecurity in our own country. That is why our state governor have been crying out for the creation of state police. And again, like I said, only last week, the Senate passed my bill, the Firearms Act Amendment Bill. When I look at that act, I realize that it's obsolete. And if you listen carefully to the report by the United Nations Regional Center for Peace and Disarmament in Africa, they came with a very alarming statistics only a few months ago, where they said there are about 500 million illegal weapons and arms in circulation right now in West Africa, and 350 million of those weapons and arms are domiciled here in Nigeria. That is the reason why I came up with that very important piece of legislation, where, as I'm talking to you, the Senate passed that bill last week. At least the bill will assist in position of fines for offenses and imprisonment for those people that are parading around with illegal arms in our own country. That's the problem we're having at the moment. So for me, it's not about blaming the security, blaming we have to come out openly and come with laws that can help the security agencies in Nigeria to also fight this banditry and terrorists in our own country. It's not about talking. It's not about grandstanding. We don't grandstand on the issue of insecurity. But I can assure you, what Kaduna State Governor is saying is right. This problem of insecurity is affecting every section in our own country. So we need to come together and accept that the way the security agencies are in this country today, I don't think we can be able to fight this issue of banditry and terrorism in our own country. Thank you very much.
All right. Can you take us through some of the features of your bills addressing the issue of state police, especially now in view of the fact that you know that the conversation around the 2023 election is heating up every day? That raises that old argument against the existence of state police and the potential for abuse of state police by state governors. How does your bill address this issue? And just take us through the general provisions. I'm aware of your firearms amendment bill, which is it's incredible to me that it's taken as long as it had, so you had to have that bill passed to raise the penalty for illegal importation of firearms to Nigeria from 1,000 naira to 1 million naira. I mean, when you say obsolete, that bill really was obsolete. But take us through the provisions of your state police bills, please.
Well, I think the fears by most of our people here that the state governors will abuse the state police, if we allow it to happen, for me, it's just assumption. And most of those things are people that are against restructuring in this country. It's just like people saying we don't want to accept resource control in our country. People don't understand the meaning of restructuring. In this country, I believe we have come a long way where we have to accept that, look, things have to change. And of course, I don't believe the state governors will abuse the issue of state police. I know it's just a kind of assumption, an opinion by some people who don't believe in changes in our own country. Let me tell you something here. What we are trying to do is that it's very clear. The condition and the requirement for anybody to join state police would be the same thing with the requirement to join a federal police force. So why is it that we are not complaining about the federal government abusing the federal police force? No, because as I'm talking to you now, most of the state commissioners of police are being controlled by the state governors. They are being funded by the state governors. And as I'm talking to you, I don't believe there's any state police commissioner in this country that can tell me that he is not being funded by the state governor. So that is what is happening today. The only difference is that they take their orders from the Inspector General of Police. That is the issue. But I believe what we are providing in our own amendment or in the bill, because we are making sure that the condition for you to join state police will be the same condition, the same requirement, the same process to join state police. So that is the issue. Then secondly, we also have provision that in case of any abuse of those powers, the federal police force can override the state police. So that is also there in our own bill. When I came to the Senate, I met my colleague, the distinguished Senator Ike Ekweremadu, fighting for the creation of state police in the 8th Senate. So I joined him, and we sat down. I quickly came up with some improvements in that very bill he was trying to sponsor in the 8th Senate. And I can assure you, only last week, my colleagues sat down. The committee inaugurated by the Senate President to look into the constitutional review, we came together and sat down. We are talking about the possibility of the creation of state police. And I don't think if there's anybody in the Senate today who is completely against the creation of state police, except those that do not understand the essence and the reason why we need this very urgently.
Senator Ubasani, what has your intervention done as regards the release of this students of Bethel School. Can you precisely state what it has done? You know, was it your intervention that led to those 2-3 people that are released recently? I mean, because this is your narrative says your intervention, but there's another narrative out there. And when we had one of the top leaders of CAN out of Kaduna, he said otherwise. He said he had been left alone. And the only photo a lot of people saw there was Senator Shehu Sani visiting them. So what has your intervention done, really?
So let me answer your question. Maybe you did not listen to what I said very carefully. If you are following the situation of insecurity in Kaduna, you will agree with me that we don't just go to visit the traumatized people, just carrying cameras. I don't do that. We don't grandstand on the issue of insecurity. That's the reason why probably my own constituents voted those guys out and elected me. Because you don't grandstand on the issue of insecurity. This issue of kidnapping is very sensitive. These kidnappers, as we're talking, they are following what we're also doing. So you don't go there with cameramen, with a TV station, just to announce to the public that I'm here to see the families of the kidnapped. You don't do that. We do this in discreetly. We don't allow people to know what we're doing. Of course, like I said, I have contacted with the families. Some of them are working directly with me. So if people are trying to politicize this issue, I think it's a pity. It's a pity. We don't publicize the issue of insecurity. And let me draw your attention to one fact. It's only recently because a lot of people who have no idea, no information as regard to what we're doing in Kaduna, we're trying to now take this issue of Bethel Baptist Church in isolation of other kidnappings we had in Kaduna. And nobody is even asking whether there's any senator or any elected member in Kaduna State that have visited all the IDP camps in Kaduna. I'm the only person, as I'm talking today. I was the person that visited them, and still I'm the only person that visited all the 5 IDP camps in my own constituency. You can verify. And I do not only go there with cameras. No, I didn't go with cameras, but I've gone there to distribute relief materials worth millions of naira. You can confirm from your own correspondent in Kaduna or people in Kaduna. So we don't just come to the national television, international television, and grandstand with pictures and cameras. We don't do that.
Senator, sir, you've not answered my question. My question is,
let me tell you.
My question is, what has your intervention done? You know, give us some excerpt of what your intervention has done. That's what I want to know. Your intervention in all of this insecurity.
Let me tell you, at least my intervention, my intervention have given the families of those, the parents of those people that have been abducted, some sense of relief, because I've been talking to them, I've been talking to the security agencies, but I will not tell you what I have done here in the national television. That is not my character. I will never tell you that. But one day, not long, they will come out and say it themselves. I don't come here to talk about what I've done for my people. I'm elected. It's my responsibility to look at my constituents. When I visited all the IDP camps, I didn't come to Arise Television to tell you what I did. And I will never come to any station to say that, because it's our responsibility. That is the primary objective of any government, to protect the lives and properties of the people. And we are doing our bit. That's what I'm doing. And I can assure you, the governor of Kaduna State is also doing a lot. So don't allow people to come here, try to politicize the issue of insecurity in Kaduna. It's unacceptable. Our people are not happy because that is not our culture. We don't do that. But even this morning before coming here, I spoke to some parents, I spoke to security agencies, but it's not something for me to tell you because we don't disclose those kind of things. There are security matters. I will not tell you. Thank you very much.
Well, Senator Sani, I'm sure you will expect that I will respond to your prefatory comments. And you were referring to the introduction to the interview with Senator Shehu Sani. And what we said there was that, yes, Senator Shehu Sani, your predecessor, had visited the people, and he came here to share with us on television what he found there. And of course, we've been reporting the story, and we know that the parents are not happy of those school children, and they were complaining about not getting the necessary support. And in the introduction to that interview, we had asked, where is Senator Obasani, who is the senator representing that particular zone. And I think it was an entirely professional thing to do, to call you out. And that's why you are here today. And you have told us the efforts you have made, and you don't like to go about with cameramen. Maybe some other people like to do so. But our job has nothing to do with the politics. Whatever politics, that is played in Kaduna State, our job is to hold public officials accountable. And I want to commend you for your courage to come here, to come and defend yourself. That's the spirit. Now, my next question. Many of those parents and families involved in Kaduna State, they complain that they don't get enough support. You have always asked for support for Governor Nasir El-Rufai, which is perfectly in order, because as senator, you have to work with the governor to find a solution. But some of the people that we have spoken to with regard to banditry and all of that in Kaduna State say the governor is part of the problem, because the governor says he will not pay ransom, he will not negotiate. And in virtually every case, they've been saying, look, it's better to negotiate because they are interested in the safety of their people, of their children, of their family members. What do you say to that strategy of, we won't pay ransom, we won't negotiate?
Let me make it clear to you. My position has always been the fact that a lot of people are trying to make kidnapping to be one of the most lucrative businesses in this country. I do not subscribe to the idea of paying those bandits and terrorists money. Let me tell you why I'm saying that. The reason is very simple. When you give them money, these guys are not reasonable, they are not responsible. They will use the money to go and buy more arms and ammunition to continue to attack more people. So for me, we cannot look at this. This can never be the solution to the problem. You are only encouraging the terrorists to continue to go and abduct more people, kidnap more innocent people, because they are empowering them, giving them money. They will buy arms. They will not, when you give them the money, that does not mean they will say, oh, let us now retire and settle. They will never retire. The most important thing is that we need to confront them. We are a country. We are a government. When you are elected, you must always take difficult decisions. I know it's a very difficult decision taken by Governor El-Rufai, but I have no doubt in my mind, in the long run, we will all appreciate this very position. Because, let me draw attention to one fact. Someone came here and said, oh, he knows those bandits, mentioned their names, but it doesn't make any sense. Because you think the governor will sit down and just allow his people to suffer like that? I know what he is doing. I know what he has done so far. That is the reason why, even last week, he asked for more security personnel to come to Kaduna. So I'm talking to about 2,000 security personnel have arrived Kaduna only last week. And Kaduna State government are the ones funding them, supporting them, and I have no doubt in my mind, we will defeat these terrorists and bandits in Kaduna State. But paying them ransom will not solve the problem. You are empowering them, you are encouraging them to go and keep kidnapping our people, and will not do that. That is my position. Thank you very much.
Right. Education is clearly a large part of your legislative agenda. You've sponsored bills for, Institute of ICT, a bill to create the University of Technology in Kaduna State rather than the Polytechnic. Well, rename it, turn it into a university, not a polytechnic, a teaching institute, all kinds of things. But we have bandits wreaking absolute havoc. While they lack the ideological bent of Boko Haram, they are doing their best to further those aims of Boko Haram and stop children in Kaduna, well, young people in Kaduna as well, from going to school, from getting an education. What's your response to that? The fact that you're trying to do your bit as a senator, but your efforts are being completely frustrated by bandits.
Yeah, let me tell you my effort. I'm not like other or former senators that will come here and be telling you that they have stood up at the floor of the Senate making noise. No, we don't do that. We don't make noise. If you go to the Senate, look at my own contribution as regard to the lawmaking. Of course, you have forgotten that I also have a bill trying to reform judiciary in our own country. The reason why I'm doing that is to be able to at least support the judiciary for speedy dispensation of justice. These are things you need to look into. People are complaining that a lot of these criminals are being arrested, but people don't believe they are properly being investigated, even convicted. But the reason is clear. It's because when you look at judiciary the way it is today, take my state for instance, we have very few high court judges. You find one high court judge with about 300 cases. So how could he, with all sense of responsibility, be able to attend to all those important cases that have to do with fundamental human rights of people charging criminals, kidnappers, and all these banditry? So that is a problem. So my bill also to reform the judiciary is already progressing at the level of the Senate. Secondly, you just mentioned my own firearms act, which was obsolete. You commended that. That is my intervention. My bill for the creation of state police is also one. If you look at these three bills, as I'm talking to you, these are the work of a legislature. You don't just go and make noise. And let me tell you, what we are doing in the 9th Senate, we differ from what used to happen in the previous Senate. Because we don't grandstand, I stood up many times in the floor of the Senate, and I even called on my colleagues openly not to grandstand on the issue of insecurity. Because security is not politics. So we have to be careful. And for that reason, we are working very hard to support all those important institutions. We have to strengthen our institution. That is a problem as I'm talking to you now. If we don't strengthen our critical institutions, we will not handle this crisis. We cannot solve this crisis. That is a problem, and that is the work of a legislature, not it. Because I don't have powers, as I'm talking to today, to direct the Inspector General of Police or the Commissioner of Police or any security personnel. But our work is not to go and move a motion. Someone said he's moving a motion. Of course, at the level of the 9th Senate, we have moved more than 100 motions on the issue of insecurity. But that is not the solution. We have to differ from that and start looking at the laws to empower, to update our laws so that we can solve this problem once and for all. We have laws that are very weak and are very critical. That have to do with security, with issue of our judicial reform, with issue of state police. These are very important, in my own opinion. So when you mention other bills, and don't forget, when I came in as the chairman of the Senate Committee on Banking, Insurance and Other Financial Institutions, the first bill I did was updating the Banks and Other Financial Institutions Act that was obsolete for 29 years. As I'm talking to you, my bill is one of the member bills out of the three bills assented by Mr. President. So that's my contribution at the level of the Senate.
Real quickly, Senator, you said you've been doing a lot, but I will ask you again, what have you been doing? You know why I'm asking you this? Look at the case of banditry in Kaduna. In the end, it is always the parents that rescue their children by negotiating with the bandits. Remember the case of Greenfield? It was the parents that paid over 100 million to rescue their children. Bethel School now, the parents claimed that they are calling them to bring foodstuff, rice, and everything for them, for their children to feed in the bush. Is it that you never get a chance to talk to these bandits? Why is it that the parents are left on their own? And you say you are doing something. So I want to know what you're doing precisely. And that's why I deliberately asked that question. Because if you ask the parent, they're saying otherwise. Why is it that we have a country where we have a senator, and it is the parents that are talking to the bandits, not the senator that was voted in to represent them?
Let me tell you the reason why we don't talk to the bandits. Or you want the Canadian government to talk to the bandits, we will not do that. The reason why is not even the parents. As I'm talking to now, is the school authority, is a Bethel Baptist Church authority that are talking to the bandits. And we allow them to do that. It is deliberate. Because let me tell you now, even this interview I'm having and you're emphasizing on me telling you what I've done, you're exposing the parents. So stop that. I will not tell you like I said, but I'm doing a lot. But the parents will come on their own to speak. I say I will not grandstand. I'm not doing it because of you or because of anybody. I'm doing it because I was elected by these people overwhelmingly. If you don't know, go and check my record. Go and check my support. Those people talking to you here, they were voted out by those guys because they rejected them. They don't believe in grandstanding. We will not change our ways. These are our ways. We will not come to the television and start telling you what I've done. But the parents will come and give the testimony on their own. If you want them to talk, I will make them to talk. Thank you very much.
Well, Senator Sani, thank you very much for joining us on the morning show, except that this will have been a great opportunity for you to just outline some of those things that you have done. But it's okay, since you say you don't like the camera. Thank you very much for joining us.
The Electoral Act Amendment Bill has been laid in both the Senate and the House of Representatives ahead of the clause-by-clause consideration and passage today. Chairman of the Senate Committee on INEC, Kabiru Gaya, while speaking exclusively with Haraz News, says the legislation will repeal and enact the 2010 Electoral Act, which has been under consideration for years. He also spoke on the transmission of election results through electronic means in Clause 50, subsection 2 of the draft bill that has now become controversial.
That the Senate do receive the report of Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, on the Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2021 SB 122. I so move, Mr. President.
Meanwhile, Senate President Ahmed Lawan says he has received more than 900 text messages in one day over allegations of tampering with the Electoral Act Amendment draft bill. Lawan described those accusing the leaders of the National Assembly of removing electronic transmission of results from the report as mischievous and rabble-rousers. Civil society organization had last week alleged that the final copy of the electoral bill did not represent the interests of Nigerians. The other reports later said that the section had been reintroduced by public uproar.
Of those accusing the leadership of the National Assembly are misinformed, innocent. Some are simply mischievous and rabble-rousers. This is the first time this report is laid here. And this report of the committee, this is the decision of the committee on INEC, and therefore whatever will be discussed or considered about the Electoral Act Amendment Bill will be on the basis of what has been presented to the Senate here. If anybody feels very strongly about anything, lobby distinguished senators to canvass for your position rather than blackmail leadership, because my telephone line and that of the Honorable Speaker were published. In one day, I received over 900 SMS messages saying we have manipulated this. We didn't. We will do what is right. We have our procedures, and lobbying is part of democracy.
All right, Tuno, come back to the chat this morning. Your take on this.
Well, all I have to say about this is that it's important that we're seeing responsiveness by hook or by crook, whether they want to admit it or they don't want to admit it. They are listening because they've been compelled to listen. Vox populi, vox dei, like I said yesterday. And I have another Latin maxim to share this morning. Salus populi, suprema lex exto. The welfare of the people is the supreme law. So it is important for our leaders to keep that in mind. Anything that would regress the Nigerian democracy is reprehensible and must be rejected soundly. Now, the Senate President talked about receiving 900 text messages. It's music to my ears. Not to him, I imagine, with his phone going off constantly. But I love the fact that the Nigerian public has formed themselves now into a pressure group, the ultimate pressure group. And I resent any kind of allegation, which I'm not saying that the Senate President or the President of the Senate, as he likes to be called, I'm not saying that's what he said, but any type of sort of resentment expressed by some of our leaders that we often hear towards people trying to hold them accountable, for me, is ridiculous. That is exactly what the people are supposed to do. We're not to sit and be quiet for 4 years and only wheel us out to vote for you come election time. It's an ongoing process, and I'm excited to see that process being deepened every day.
Dr. Bati? Anyway, my standard response in a situation like this is to stress the importance of public opinion. And our public opinion is an important component of the democratic process and also of the governance process. And what we have seen, either in the case of the Petroleum Industry Bill or the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, is the case of public opinion, as an expression of power on the part of the people. And we saw that also with regard to the media bills that we're told have now been suspended. We discussed that yesterday. And the Senate President and other members of his team should not be afraid of public opinion, because that is what democracy is all about. I thought it was a bit, harsh in the commentaries that he has made. First, he said his privacy was invaded because some people published his phone number and that of the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Well, the people who sent him 900 text messages, I imagine that they were not begging him for money or discussing his private affairs. They must have been discussing the controversial Electoral Act Amendment Bill and drawing his attention to it. So in that regard, I don't think he can claim that it was an invasion of his privacy. What is that rule again? Volenta non fit injuria. If you don't like heat, don't go near the kitchen. Yeah. And as the leader of the Senate, yes, he should be interested in what the people are saying. And in any case, he himself said anybody who has any issues with the Electoral Act Amendment Bill should approach his or her representative in the National Assembly, who can come and be part of that process and represent the people. And I imagine that he wouldn't be, as Senate President, the only person who received text messages. I read the front page story of This Day today, and we've been given the assurance by the Senate President himself and by other members of the National Assembly that the process will be accountable, will be transparent and accountable, and that there should be no fears expressed about the controversial Section 52, Clause 52, 1 to 3 of the proposed electoral bill. And that is the section of the law, of the proposed law, that deals with the electronic transmission of results. And we understand that various caucuses from different zones have been meeting since yesterday. So we hope, of course, that that use of technology that was in the original document, which the Senate President insists has not been tampered with, will be retained. Because elsewhere in the world, technology is used, to ensure transparency. And there is nothing wrong in also using it here. The transmission of results haven't been a major issue, in the last 2019 general election. I would have loved the situation, however, whereby that debate, that clause-by-clause consideration in the House of Reps and the Senate today will be televised live.
It's going to be televised.
So that Nigerians can see how each senator or member of the House of Reps is making contribution. So that we will know those who are against the people and where they stand on the key issues that have been brought to the fore. Not just electronic transmission of results, there's also the issue about campaign finance. You need 15 billion, we're told, to be a president of Nigeria, 5 billion to be a governor. Well, let them debate it and tell us whether this is a case of rising inflation, even for election purposes. But we would like to see who says what, who votes in what particular manner.
And most importantly, I think the greatest winners in this are the people. And the people must think that they can have a good democracy before they have a good democracy and demand for it. And in that spirit, I remember the words of René Descartes that says, cogito ergo sum. I think before I am. So the people must think that they must have good democracy before they have it. And people are beginning to think like that. And that's why you're getting a lot of text messages out, people commenting on national issues. Really, most importantly, I think this morning is an ode to the people.
Je pense ce que je suis.
Yeah.
Je pense ce que je suis.
Yes. C'est très bon. That's all the news headline. We take a short break now. When we return, we'll have Rotus Odiri, Adesu Amora, Aaron Akerjala to give us updates on Africa business, COVID-19, sporting activities across the globe. Stay with us.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Our trustworthy Rotus Adiri is here to give us an African business update. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Tundu. Good morning, Doctor. Good morning, Rifai. Good morning to all our viewers. We begin with agriculture. There has been some suspected fraud in the federal government's program for agriculture subsidies for farmers. So here's what's going on. The federal government has made a claim that about 6 million farmers have been registered to receive subsidies. In fact, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Agriculture, Andrew Kwasari, made the claim that about 6 million of these farmers have been registered. A number of the players in the sector are refuting this claim, from the National President of the All Farmers Association of Nigeria, Kabir Ibrahim, the Lagos State Chairman, Chief Femi Oke, Bauchi State Chairman Mahmoud Yakubu, the Chairman of the Cotton Farmers Association, Suleiman Akande. So here's the thing: a farmer wants to buy a fertilizer to fertilize their crops. Fertilizer costs what? 6,000-7,000 naira. Federal government takes a deposit of about 2,000 naira into that farmer's account, essentially giving some room, reducing the cost of that fertilizer to about 4,000 naira. That's just an example. The President Buhari put together a committee comprising of the Auditor General of the nation, the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Agriculture, Central Bank of Nigeria. That committee was supposed to come up with this register, and with the sources I've spoken to, the central bank was supposed to sign off on a validated list. Unfortunately, according to the sources I've spoken to, the ministry has bypassed that list and was getting ready to make a payment, subsidy payment, based on this list of farmers that has not been validated. I also understand from sources I've spoken with that the EFCC is involved and is investigating this. Now, another thing I need to point out is that back on June the 17th, the Minister of Agriculture, Sabo Nanono, at the 4th meeting of the National Council on Agriculture and Rural Development, June 17th, said the government had created an online portal, and in that portal, they were going to register. Initially, it was 2.4 million farmers, but they said they were encouraged by what they were seeing, and they're going to push it up to 10 million. And then you've got Senior Special Assistant to the President of Agriculture, Andrew Kwasari, saying that it's now at 6 million. That online portal was supposed to capture bio data, geographical data for the farmers, farming valuations, output, and so on and so forth. So it's all pretty troubling. I have to remind you about this. We've kind of seen this before, right? Where portals are created, subsidy unfortunately doesn't go to who it's supposed to go to. The Director General of the World Trade Organization, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, just 2 days ago was talking to the Atlantic Council, their geo-economic group, and they asked her about, I think it was in this day newspaper yesterday, about subsidies, the auditing programs that went through under President Jonathan for fuel subsidies back then. So we're seeing this rear its head again in the agriculture sector. It's pretty troubling, but again, according to sources that I've spoken with, the EFCC is investigating this. Quickly move to the maritime sector. President Buhari has said that approximately about 26.3 billion naira or so a year is being lost to piracy, sea crimes. And he was represented by Vice President Yemi Osibanjo at the launch of Operation Falcon Eye Assignment. And what this is supposed to be is a surveillance technology that is supposed to be aligned across the, or rather survey the coastal waters of Nigeria to try to reduce crime. According to Chief of Naval Staff Vice Admiral Awal Gambo, he says that in fact they've already recovered some, about $9 million worth of foreign rice that's been smuggled through our waters. Also made some arrests as well in that regard. And they're saying that this surveillance facility is what is going to hopefully be a game changer in order to reduce crime. So of course, the natural next question will be if surveillance tech is working in maritime, what about surveillance tech at the borders? The governor of Kaduna State has just been, that's Governor El-Rufai, has just been under siege with banditry and so on. You remember at a forum covered by Arise News, he said use drones, use technology to survey schools and so on to reduce banditry that's going on there. So if this is working in maritime, why can't it work elsewhere? So again, but that figure, 26.3 billion naira a year being lost to maritime piracy is supposed to be hopefully reduced with this Operation Falcon Eye Assignment. Finally, the digital rights issues with respect to what's been going on with Nigeria and Twitter and India. It came up yesterday in Geneva at United Nations Human Rights Office. Let's quickly hear from Peggy Hicks, who is the Director of Thematic Engagements at the UN.
That we have the same rights online as offline. But when we look at the online landscape, and you see a digital world that is unwelcoming and frequently unsafe for people trying to exercise their rights, you also see a host of government and company responses that risk making the situation worse. Recent developments in countries including, for example, among many others, India, Nigeria, the UK, the US, and Vietnam have spotlighted these issues and will be influential in how our online space evolves. We want to emphasize that we have the same.
Hello, Rutus, please continue. Please go ahead.
President Buhari has also approved new board members of the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority. This follows the expiration of the tenure of the previous board members, and they are represented by each geopolitical zone. So finally, our final bit of news of the day, President Buhari appointed new members to the NSIA, the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority. That's our African business update.
Okay, Rochus, the Falcon Eye project. How is this Falcon Eye project different from the Deep Blue project? You know, earlier on this program, we talked about that Deep Blue project, which is about maritime security. And of course, you know, you've outlined the challenges: illegal fishing in our waters, oil theft, piracy, and it's not even just Nigeria that is affected. It's all the 17 countries in the Gulf of Guinea, from Senegal to Angola, and Nigeria just happens to be especially disadvantaged in terms of security. And since the beginning of this year, the authorities have been talking about, you know, deploying more technology to ensure maritime security. So the question is, Falcon Eye project, yes, the Navy. I thought the Deep Blue project is supposed to involve Navy and other agencies, and particularly the Nigerian Maritime and Security Administration Agency, that is NIMASA. I've not heard of the role of NIMASA in this particular case. So if that Falcon Eye project is going to have about 4 centers, what is the role also of NIMASA, which seems to have a primary responsibility for maritime security? That's one. 2, the register, the farmers register. Well, I'm surprised that this has become controversial because many years ago, the Federal Ministry of Agric and Rural Development in fact opened a portal and told the farmers they could come and register. And under the former Minister of Agriculture, Akinwumi Adesina, there was registration for projects like e-wallet and other initiatives, you know, at the time that he was minister. Is it that the register that was prepared at that time no longer exists? That's one question. The second question is that we're told that the new register that is coming up now is the personal project
I mean, everything looks very, very
Well said,
untidy.
Doctor, well said.
I mean, you want to react, or let me just have a quick go at it. The truth has to be said. See, Rotus, I don't know when people don't want to tell the truth, they make everything look very nebulous. You don't need a grand registration for farmers in this country. You have pocket associations, go through those associations. It's as simple as that. Have a direct database. You can store the database in the cloud. You should have that database, which anybody can go, and once they register through the portal, or any portal, then it goes to the database. Or collect the database of the Farmers Union. They are Farmers Union. Farmers organize themselves. I mean, there's the Agbekoya. We know the Agbekoya. We know various farmer unions across the country. So just go through there, and to be able to give it, but when you want to shroud things in secrecy, it becomes nebulous. You start asking for data that don't exist. Concerning going back to dispensing things for farmers, let us use blockchain technology. If you put it on blockchain, Rotus, we'll know which farmer has been given XYZ. Even if fertilizer dispensing fertilizers to farmers, use blockchain technology so that there's a blockchain that everybody can see, and it's clear and it's free from any sort of controversy. If you want to truly do something, you do it. If you don't want to do it, you find an excuse. We're beginning to see these excuses, and it's not right, because there are problems that are blowing back on all of us. Food insecurity is staring at us in the face. There's insecurity, farmers can't go to the farm. What is happening? Food prices are increasing every day. It's a logistical nightmare. Apart from that, people can't move food from the production centers to the towns where they are needed. That's why you see post-harvest losses is still over 50% in this country. Isn't it shocking to you, Rotus, that post-harvest losses is over 50% and we have food inflation? Isn't it shocking? Right. Tomatoes and other fruit rot away in the farms.
There's also the Anchor Borrowers Program, it must be said, and the registration process that's been going on already through that. So again, key, according to sources I spoke with, Central Bank was supposed to sign off on this list, and that never happened. So that's part of what's going on in this situation.
The Special Assistant on Agriculture, the Mr. Kwasari, whom you mentioned, he says that the farmers that are complaining are political farmers. That seems to be a new category in Nigeria.
Well, on agriculture, I always have to stress the fact that our food that we eat here is not deemed for consumption elsewhere, not in the EU, not in the US, not in the UK. It's rejected as not being up to par. And that is what we are chowing down on here in Nigeria. I have to continue to stress that point. We need to think about that. But to your story about the United Nations Human Rights Office continuing to frame the Twitter ban as a human rights issue, it's not about who likes who or who took whose tweet down or who agrees or who does not agree. But access is a human rights issue, as people have argued, obviously with limited success because the Twitter ban is still in place. But do you think this kind of international pressure will actually have any bearing on the situation?
I sure hope it does, Tundu. I mean, that's as high as you can go with the United Nations Office of Human Rights. Even on the Global Business Report, we spoke with private sector members not too long ago, and we'll have a report on that later today. So we hope that the continued conversation, like what we're having now, what's going on in various organizations, will and the government is supposed to be still talking to Twitter, but as you said, no updates yet. But hopefully, this does put the pressure, and we get some breakthrough sooner or later.
I mean, Rotus, real quickly, please. Can any stat agency bring out a comprehensive report on the level of job cuts associated with the Twitter ban? Because there's a massive job cut going on. I was hearing a couple of companies that had online desk sacking their workers on Drove. The massive job cuts associated with the Twitter ban. The impact also of Twitter ban on payroll taxes. I think we should do reports on that and put it out there so that the world will see what is happening in Rotus. All right, we need
well said. Yeah, remember when initially we talked about this a week or two ago. It was about as far as jobs, call centers by certain companies, banks, and so on for social media customer service. So if there's an impact, it will be on those specific people who have been hired to address customer issues on social media, and then maybe a few other pockets here and there. But it would definitely help to have data on that.
Thank you so much, Rotus. Appreciate you for your time. We'll go to Adesua this morning. Adesua, great to have you.
Thank you, Rufai. Good morning, Tundu, and good morning, Dr. Abachi. Let's begin with the statistics like we normally do here on the COVID-19 update. Globally, there have been well over 188 million cases, at least 4 million deaths, and 3.4 billion doses of vaccines administered. But the World Health Organization yesterday released its weekly epidemiological update, and it says that deaths have climbed, global deaths from the coronavirus have climbed last week after 9 straight weeks of decline, recording 55,000 lives lost, and that's a 3% increase from the week before that. While infections rose 10% last week to nearly 3 million, with the highest numbers recorded in Brazil, India, Indonesia, and Britain. The World Health Organization says this reversal has been attributed to low vaccination rates, the relaxation of mask rules and other precautions, and the swift spread of the more contagious Delta variant that has now been detected in more than 111 countries. Well, here in Nigeria, 48 new cases were recorded in the last 24 hours. No data came in for Lagos State for the day. Ondo State in the southwest region of the country posted the most infections with 14 new cases. Staying in Nigeria, the management of one of its foremost universities has ordered students to vacate hostels on campus indefinitely over fears of COVID-19. The management of the University of Lagos, otherwise known as UNILAG, after an emergency Senate meeting yesterday, says it took the decision to avoid escalation of COVID cases after a rise in the number of students presented with flu-like symptoms similar to the COVID-19 virus at the university's medical center. Now, a statement by the school management says students who have tested positive are being treated and contact tracing is in place. Before now, a statement on the university's website reveals that its medical center had actually raised an alarm, informing the school community about what appears to be the start of a potential third wave. All students have been given till noon today to vacate the hostels, and classes are to go virtual for the rest of the semester. Away from Nigeria, the Dutch government in Netherlands is asking people to work from home as it reimposed some coronavirus lockdown measures weeks after lifting most of its restriction measures. This comes as infections skyrocketed by more than 500% in the last week, with more than 50,000 people testing positive. Prime Minister Mark Rutte had only this week actually, apologized for lifting restrictions at the end.
The challenge, of course, is to get the people to get vaccinated, and that's where particularly the challenges for the United States. And if you look at many of those states, the 5 that are most affected, including Mississippi and Missouri, you see that these are states, and Arkansas, you mentioned Arkansas, these are states with a higher rate of vaccine hesitancy. As for Netherlands, yes, maybe there are lessons that we can learn from the Netherlands. Yes, end of June, there was the lifting of restrictions. In the first week of July, there was a festival in a place called Utrecht in the Netherlands, attended by about 20,000 people. Out of the 20,000 people that attended that festival, over 1,000 of them are said to have been infected. And now, acting Prime Minister Mark Rutte has had to impose fresh restrictions, particularly in the catering sector, bars and restaurants, which are said to be more responsible for the upsurge in the infection rate. And the people most affected are young people between the ages of 18 and 24. And these were young people who had refused to take the vaccine. Now, University of Lagos, yes, by noon today, the students have been asked to vacate the hostels. What was discovered at the health center, because when the school resumed in May, when physical classes resumed in May, the university had set up a vaccination center. And it was that has given them the opportunity to note the increase in the number of persons who were infected. And now the students have been asked to vacate the hostels. Some parents are protesting that perhaps that's not the best way to go about it. But I think it's better for the university to err on the side of caution. And what the university has decided to do is to start classes virtually from the 26th of this month. Finally, I wanted to draw your attention to the pushback from those countries who have adopted mix and match of vaccines. The other day we were discussing Thailand. Now, Thailand has said no. From studies available, they have seen that mixing the Sinovac with the Pfizer vaccine is in the best interest of their people, because in Thailand we've seen the numbers going up drastically. Also, Canadian health authorities have also said no. They are going to combine the vaccines, the adenoid vaccine and the messenger RNA vaccine, and even encourage people to take booster vaccines. The good news about that is that Swaminathan, the chief scientist of the WHO, has edited what she said originally, because she was saying this is not data-driven, this is dangerous, it could result in chaos. She's now saying that, well, she had individuals in mind who could abuse this mix and match, not necessarily public health authorities. So we're likely to see, going forward, more countries perhaps adopting the mix and match method. But for us here in Nigeria, the big thing remains taking the necessary precautions.
Yeah, and taking the jabs, most importantly. Please go out there. I've got my shot. Go out there, get your shots. It's safe. People take it, and it gives you that level of protection. But for me, one step forward, I wanted to say as regards this mixing and matching of vaccine is, and I'm speaking as a scientist, I have a degree in science. It has to be said, when you don't have enough empirical studies and things, it's not a good approach to say, let's go this way. And I'll give you instances. Most of the peer review they have done are for side effects of one vaccine on the people. And you're seeing the numbers come out. You're seeing people coming out say, oh, I had this side effect, I had that side effect. We do not know, and enough study have not been done as regards the impact of mixing the adeno vaccines and other forms of vaccines together in people's body. We do not have enough facts on that. I know it's easy for us to say because we need to bolster ourselves, we need to get the shot, the efficacy of it can only last only 6 months or thereabout, but we have not done enough peer review as regards that. And increasingly, we are having new symptoms as a result of the use of those vaccines. I mean, the other day, we're talking about some level of paralysis from people taking vaccines and the likes. So we should be careful. If possible, they can work more on the booster jabs. I mean, Pfizer is working on that booster jab already. Other people too can start work on the booster jab. People that have taken the Pfizer, they could probably just take a Pfizer booster jab. But I know in the chaos and everything COVID-19 brings, people want to mix and match. Let's be careful. Yeah, the World Health Organization has given it the all clear, but I'll tell you, nobody did know that we're going to see these cases, of adverse reactions to the vaccine before people started taking the vaccine. And that's how you build peer review and empirical studies. So peer reviews goes a long while.
I think the fascinating thing about this pandemic is that we learn every day. We learn almost, at the snap of the fingers. Opinions will be divided. And of course, the science community feet will be put to the fire every time. There are those who have said, booster jabs like you're speaking of are actually not necessary at the moment. We've seen top scientists from the US, we've seen top scientists from the WHO say, at the moment, there are no cause for a third jab, but there are countries who have said, we have seen cases, breakthrough infections, that is infections in those who have been fully vaccinated with 2 jabs. They are still coming down, they are still infected with this virus. However, we should point out that the rise in infections in those places or in people who have been fully vaccinated is not what we're seeing previous to vaccination. So there's a break in COVID deaths like the US. It's a good example of life experience. This is out of trials now. This is real life experience. Those who have been vaccinated, we are seeing increase in infections but low death rates, 260 a day in the US compared to where they were coming from, where you had at least sometimes 250,000 deaths. So the vaccines are working. Opinions will be divided, Rufai, and the science community will continue to work hard ahead of all of this.
Well, I'm not fascinated at all, Adesua. I find it also tedious. I just want this to be over. This uninvited intruder should just go away. But what I wanted to say about it, just to buttress your point about how things change, in the blink of an eye, really, Indonesia has now emerged as, Asia's COVID-19 epicenter, no longer India. It continues to ravage whole communities. Now they've had to shut down Bali and Java, which arguably they ought to have done before. So this is the argument against complacency and lifting COVID restrictions prematurely. It's all just so tedious.
I know.
Well, just a footnote on the mix and match. Yes. The health authorities in Canada are insisting, which is the basis for their insistence, that, look, they've taken the decision to mix and match going forward based on studies, reviews that have been carried out in Germany and also in Oxford. And that the conclusion by the scientists is that, mixing and matching is safe. And we're likely to see more countries in Europe also going in that direction. But as you said, this pandemic, we keep learning new things every day, and it remains a major challenge for scientists all over the world.
All right. Thank you so much, Adesua.
Thank you, guys.
As always.
There are emerging reports of an interesting sequence of events at the National Assembly here in Nigeria following the attempt by lawmakers to amend the electoral bill. Well, for the latest, we are being joined by Rise political editor Sumner Sambo, who's been monitoring development there. Sumner, a rowdy session on the floor of the Senate. Bring us up to speed.
Yes, it's a rowdy session here, not just only in the Senate, but also in the House of Representatives. And in the House of Reps, it started actually with the Petroleum Industry Bill Harmonization Committee report, which recommended 3%. The Senate passed 3%, but when it got to the House of Representatives, it was a difficult situation, and we had the House members going into a closed-door session because of lots of members insisting on 5% for the host communities equities fund. And eventually, when it came to the Electoral Act, all was going well in the Senate until it got to section 52, subsection 123, which is the very controversial section that has to do with the electronic transmission of election results. And what the committee report has stated is that especially in subsection 3 of that section 52, it had said that electronic transmission of election results should be done when it is practicable to do so. But eventually a senator representing Niger North, who is the deputy majority whip, Senator Abdullah Isabi, actually stood up to amend that section 52 subsection 3 to now read that before electronic transmission of election result is done, there must be an approval from the Nigerian Communications Commission that there is good network in specific localities, and that when there's that approval will then be sent to the National Assembly, who will now approve for INEC to allow for the electronic transmission of result. And a lot of federal lawmakers here were very angry at that amendment, saying that, will the National Assembly be in session on election day? And so that led to a lot of uproar. But the Senate President now decided that it should be put to vote. And when the President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, put that section to vote, a voice vote, then eventually those who wanted that amendment for NCC to have an approval and the National Assembly to give approval before electronic transmission of result is allowed took the day. And that provoked a lot of debate, a lot of uproar. Many senators stood up from their seats. Many of them walked out, threatening that they were going to leave the chamber, but the Senate President called for caution, and eventually they did not come out. But journalists were asked to leave the floor of the chamber. Specifically, the video journalists, the cameramen were all asked to vacate the chamber. A rowdy session then continued up until a cameraman left the chamber. And as you can see around the National Assembly right now, the senators are all in a closed-door session. Their aides are all out everywhere around the National Assembly here, and I'm just going to take you around. That's the Senate wing you're seeing right now. You can see the aides of federal lawmakers all outside. This is the Senate wing, the House of Representative wings, and you can see right here many aides of the politicians, some of the committee clerks are all being sent out of both chambers, and it's a dramatic moment here, a very, very dramatic moment, because there was an attempt by the Speaker and the Senate President to actually see that this issue did not become very rowdy, but eventually, due to how contentious and how important this matter is, a lot of the lawmakers couldn't take any of it.
Okay, Sumner, I want to get your take on this voice vote, because we paid attention to some of the sessions whilst before we went away and continued with our stories. And it seemed that every time a voice vote was tabled, the ayes had it. So it always seemed to depend on whether you were the one proposing the motion. The ayes always tended to have it, even when the nays shouted nay. Is that your own perception?
Well, it's usually a very difficult thing whenever controversial bills are being considered, very important ones. And that's why, if you look at the rule book of both the Senate and the House, in the standing orders of the Senate, which is the rule book that guides their whatever they do, the conduct of the House, it is specifically stated that the Senate President decides on which order is the right order to be taken. And in this instance, you will see that whenever there's a voice vote being put in place, the Senate President will determine how it goes. And sometimes there have been these accusations, even today it happened, that the nays were more than the yeas, but eventually the President of the Senate ruled in favor of those that he felt he had. And that rule, especially in the Senate standing orders, actually say it is what the presiding officer, which is the President of the Senate in this instance, hears that he adopts. So even if the yeas are more than the nays, if he hears the nays more, it is the nays that he would actually rule. So it depends on what he hears. But the thing is that there's also a provision that other senators may seek remedy. For example, you can call for division if you're not happy with the ruling of the presiding officer. And then when you call for division, each senator will stand up and be counted based on what he or she agrees or doesn't agree. And eventually, a lot of the senators were back calling for a division, which will mean that all those who are for a particular issue, like in this instance, electronic voting, will go to the right, and those who are against will go to the left. But eventually, the President of the Senate appealed for calm and appealed for them to behave as elder statesmen, and eventually they had to go into closed-door session. So the rules actually also call for electronic voting within the chamber itself, but most times the electronic voting is usually taken when it has to do with constitutional voting on constitutional matters, which says that if you're voting on constitutional matters, it is 4/5 of members, not 2/3 or 1/3.
We're not trying to preempt what this closed-door session is going to resolve, but we have seen clauses today receive 2 amendments. Are we likely to see that scenario for this clause 52 subsection 3 that has now become controversial? And I was also asking you, as a political editor, one who has covered election cycles in Nigeria, several election cycles, what is the import of this for INEC to transmit electronic results electronically when and where practicable? What does that even mean?
Well, let me start from that last question you asked. One of the persons who stood up to ensure that to say that provision should be maintained is Senator Basin Albert Akpan from Akwa Ibom Northeast. He had insisted that provision should be maintained, and when the President of the Senate put a vote whether or not that the Senate should go back to what the Senate Committee on INEC recommended, unfortunately, the President of the Senate said that what he heard is that, you know, the nays have it. So eventually he still ruled that the earlier amendment which was done to say that, look, approval of the NCC should be sought, and then that approval sent to the National Assembly, then before it's eventually allowed for the deployment of electronic transmission, should be upheld. And so in all of this, the major question that has been ongoing among many lawmakers is that if the Independent National Electoral Commission has been using methods of electronic voting, though not formally approved, such as the use of card reader, which is an electronic device, and then sometime last year it tested the transmission of election results electronically in some off-season elections, and it was accepted as very good. Why would many lawmakers be actually insisting that this should not be passed? Why are they also insisting that there should be an amendment to bring a third party, which is the Nigerian Communications Commission, to now say whether there's a network in somewhere or not, saying that those procedures will be manipulated, while the other senators, someone like Senator Ali Ndume, insisted that in his area in the Northeast, it's been a lot of facilities have been ravaged by the challenges of the insurgency in that region. And as a result of that, it will be shutting out a lot of people because there may not be, GSM network there. And so the